did a video which was going through some of the news from NAMM 2020 and picked out some products that I thought looked quite cool. That video, I'm not sure if that will go up before this one or after one, but just as I was about to edit that video and finish rendering it, I saw somewhere pop up that the Line 6 Pod Go is coming out. So I'm going to put up some screenshots and stuff and just talk about what it is that looks like to me. It looks like quite a cool product. So to me, it looks like you've basically got the HX Stomp sort of fused with a HX Effects and put on the floor in a floorboard form, kind of like the Line 6 Pod floorboards that we used to see in like the HD 300, 400, 500, which is a really cool thing. It looks like it's got the same buttons as these here, as in the view, action, page, and then the two main knobs. So that's going to be like the HX edit, sorry, the HX Stomp and the HX Effects interface, but it's a bigger screen than the HX Stomp, and I can see from the picture that there's at least 9 blocks, 10 even, so 4 before the amp and then 4 after, making 10 altogether. So that's an HX Stomp can have 6. So I don't know, possibly what they've done here is it made it so that it's a single amp, and maybe that's how they've freed up some DSP, so they've got maybe just a single amp block so you don't have parallel paths. Maybe that's how they've freed up that DSP, I don't know, but I'm interested to know more for sure. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people said that they wanted from the HX Stomp, was to have a few more blocks, and then basically you can do pretty much everything you like. So maybe there's people that would rather have extra blocks than the ability to have 2 amps at a time. Partly also because when you're running 2 amps simultaneously, that does take up quite a lot of processing power, and it does mean that even if you did have 3 blocks available, you weren't always able to put in the effects that you wanted in there. So that's quite a cool little feature. I'm looking at the back of the unit now, and from left to right we've got guitar in, then we've got expression 2, foot switch 7 and 8. So this looks to me to be identical to the right hand input of the HX Stomp, where you can run either another expression pedal or like a little two-way switch to get extra buttons. Now, given that you've got on the front of this, you've got A, B, C, D and up and down, I don't know whether you're going to need necessarily to have extra buttons, but you could. I don't know if it's going to run snapshots and stuff, so maybe that'd be part of that, but that's kind of interesting. You can see it's got an effects loop which is stereo, which is really cool. Then main out, balance and unbalanced, the same as on the back of the HX Stomp. Then one very different, but I think super cool, depending on how this works, is it's got an amp out on it. And what I think this means is that those 4 effects that you've got before the amp block, I think you're going to be able to send straight out to an amp. So in some of my presets, what I've done is I create a parallel split before the amp and I send that out to my amp. Obviously that takes up another block though. So what I'm wondering, is this a literal, like a hardwire almost kind of amp out that always works? And that would be really cool if it is. Then you've got phones and USB. So I think that looks pretty cool, and it's certainly something I'd like to have a play with, just because that's literally one of the key ways that I use my HX Stomp, is to, on a smaller gig I'll just take the HX Stomp, or a gig where I don't have room in the car because I'm carrying a PA. But if I'm just playing guitar, one of the things I like to do is run out of the HX stomp into a real amp, and then I'm sending the HX stomp to the front of house, and then I've got the amp to kind of fill out the sound on stage a bit more and to give me a bit more of that feedback kind of feel. That's a way that I really like to use the unit. So to have that kind of hardwired and set up so that I don't have to run a parallel path, to me seems like a bit of a winner. So I'm going to be looking for more news on this, and I think it's going to be the same amp models as in the Helix stuff, which is awesome because there's a bunch of those which I really like, and they're saying also that you can load your own IRs if that's the thing that you do. Eric Klein, who's one of the founders, I think, of Line 6, or he's certainly a super important person at Line 6, has commented on a few things on Facebook, and he's confirmed that the Pod Go will have Helix amp models in it. So I've just recorded a little clip which has got basically a few of my favourite amp models from the Helix world, and these are the ones that I'll be excited to use with the Pod Go, hopefully, if I can get one. So yeah.